I don't get why people keep saying Zach is such a great no drama bachelor. I think that he's being a little bit selfish this season. I think him leaning into the branding of I'm not going to lead people on is now I'm not going to take care of people's feelings. Hi everyone, I'm Julie, she's Kelly, and we're here to find love. We're in Bachelor Season 27, Episode 3, and we're back again this week to recap Zach's season. We all had some really surprise departures from our original frontrunners, so let's get into it. If you're new here, welcome. We're two dating coaches who analyze the relationship psychology and dating themes in reality TV shows, especially The Bachelor. So if you're into this sort of stuff, hit that subscribe button to follow along and join the conversation. By the way, me and Kelly have started an Instagram. It's linked right here. We will have a lot of in the moment takes during the episode, and we'll do some cute little recaps on it.
Surprise departures indeed. This episode felt, at least to me, like a lot went down that I felt not confused about, but be shocked about. There was just people who left that I didn't think were going to leave. Zach did some things that I was surprised about. Julie, I know you have some other thoughts about Zach that you're going to get into. But let's start from the top of the episode. There were 2 one-on-one dates this week and then one really big group date. So the first one-on-one was with Kaity, who was someone that I think neither of us paid a lot of attention to in the first 2 episodes. I mean, I was aware that she was there. I saw her on night 1 and I registered her, but she just didn't really stick out to me as someone that I thought Zach would connect with, but they had a really great one-on-one date. They did this night at the museum thing where they had the museum privately rented out for them, and then they had this beautiful dinner. The dinner conversation was really interesting. I think the two of them really connected on this date. They also had an overnight, which was very unheard of. I think maybe this has happened once in my recollection in a previous season. I can't remember what season it was, but I do kind of remember this happening one other time. But it is pretty surprising, and in my opinion, it's the jackpot of all one-on-one dates to be able to have an overnight. I feel like most one-on-one dates, you're actually with them for maybe a couple hours in the daytime, maybe a couple hours in the evening, but then that's it. But to be able to have the full day plus the full night, Kaity came back to the house and she was I didn't sleep all night. So she was apparently up with Zach all night. And so whether or not they had sex, I think is besides the point. The point is that they had all of that quality time, which is so huge. So I feel like that's a huge advantage for Kaity. But in terms of dating themes, the one thing I wanted to talk about from this date was what Kaity was bringing up over dinner. So she was talking about how in her past relationship, she had this 7-year toxic relationship that was, turbulent, and it sounds like it ended pretty poorly. And Zach was asking her what she wants in the future, for her ideal relationship. And she was like, I just want the basics. I just want someone who makes me feel safe, just those basic things. My gut reaction to this, Julie, you and I talk about this all the time. When people say, oh my gosh, my relationship is so amazing because he makes me feel so safe. That is great. You should feel safe in your relationship. And also, that's the baseline of a relationship. The baseline of a healthy relationship is that you should feel safe there. You never feel pressured. You feel like you're safe to be yourself. You feel like you can really open up. You feel like you're not being judged. These are things that I think of as baseline for a healthy relationship, is that you are safe when you are with this person. You are physically and emotionally safe with this person. And so whenever I hear women say I just, want someone who I feel really safe around, or this guy is really great, I think I feel really good about him because I feel so safe around him, it always makes me think, gosh, the bar is so low right now that we assume just because we feel safe with someone that they're a great match for us. Because the truth is, I just think that first, baseline before I enter into a relationship with you is, am I safe there? And then from there, I can think about things are we compatible? Do we have values alignment? Do I enjoy being with you? Is there chemistry? Is there whatever, XYZ conflict styles match? But the safety thing is when we focus on it, it just makes me wonder, wow, women have been so hurt. Like, we've been so hurt that our bar is on the floor, which Zach even said to her. Zach was even like, you deserve more than the basics, which I really appreciated him saying.
I do think a lot of people saying they want safety in their relationships is like a newer dating phenomenon. I think before there's like this laundry list of all of these physical attributes that you're looking for in a partner. And it's really great that people are moving towards this emotional intimacy of like, I really want to feel safe in every state that I'm in, whether that's physical, intellectual, emotional. I wish that she kind of broadened her language a little bit and was maybe speaking more about vulnerability or speaking more about what she really needs in that relationship to just feel like she can build like a life with someone. When Zach was saying, yeah, you deserve you deserve to be with someone that gives you more than just these basic things. It really does go to show like, wow, dating is really hard out there. People they're not taking care of each other. They're really in it for themselves. And that's kind of like one of the points I want to make about Zach later this episode is I feel like he is one of those daters. Like he seems like someone who's very like into his experience. It's not a bad thing. I'm not throwing shade. It's just the fact that he is like, I like who I like. I'm not going to lead anyone on. He's really leaning hard into that philosophy that he got from Rachel's season. But because of that, I feel like some women aren't being heard. Their experiences aren't being the safest. So, like, I don't know. I just found it to be kind of ironic that Kaity was saying that to Zach. And Zach was like, yeah, you deserve those things. But I don't know if he's the Bachelor that represents that. Because I just don't think he's taking care of his season super well. Which is like, we'll get into it.
It's a bit of a hot take, Julie. I'm excited to hear your full thoughts on this. Dating right now is hard because people are not taking care of each other, right? People are, when they date, they're just thinking about themselves. That's why ghosting is so, like, common these days. It's why, I felt so bad. I could just hear Kaity as she was describing this. I could just hear, like, she's like, all I want is the basics. It's like, it's because of that terrible relationship that she had. When people say that what they're looking for in a relationship is just like someone who doesn't treat me like shit, it's like, oh no, we're in a bad place, aren't we? We're in a bad place right now. And so, to me, it just felt like a representation of like how far gone we are in terms of where we are in dating. And this is why, when we talk about how people should treat each other, even like on this show, like we talk about this all the time, we're very critical of when, any lead or contestant treats the other in any way that is lacking kind of care and consideration, even though people are not, it's not like Brianna is Zach's girlfriend and so he needs to be, whatever, treating her like a girlfriend. It's like, well, whoever you're dating, you need to treat well enough, right? You need to exercise some level of care to anyone that you're interacting with in the dating world because it impacts how we all feel and how the water that we're swimming in, the culture of dating is so impacted. All of these little micro interactions, it all impacts the way that we are able to experience the process of dating. As dating coaches, single women come to me all the time like, fuck, dating really sucks. Like, it's like so hard. It's painful. There's games, there's chaos. It's like hard to navigate all of the kind of like mind games, chase crap, expectations. Like there's so much just like careless behavior. And the reason it feels so bad is because everyone is individually acting, like you're saying, Julie, selfishly, right? Individually, each person will make these little micro decisions, and the collection of all that, when you put it all together, creates a really toxic dating culture. And if we all just in our own little micro interactions, every interaction that we have with someone that we are dating, if we hold ourselves to a higher standard of like, let me show this person care, even though they're not my partner, even though we're not compatible, and even though I need to end things with them and I don't actually want to date them, let me just show care in this moment in the way that I'm going to do this, so that way they can go in peace and they can go and know that they should expect this level of care from whoever they're going to end up dating. And, this Kaity in this moment, my heart just broke for her hearing her say this. I think this is how Zach was feeling too. It was just like heartbreaking hearing her have such low expectations for a partner. I hope that she finds some healing soon because, you know, we all deserve much more than just the basics.
And if you think about dating culture, all of these concepts are considered to be like very common. Like ghosting, breadcrumbing, situationships, like all of these casual situations are just like, yeah, like it's totally normal, and it is, and it can be treated wonderfully with like really open communication and honesty, but a lot of that doesn't really happen, and then it becomes so normalized that it's like it's okay to be in a relationship with someone and then just exit it without really giving them any explanation because I need to look out for myself. I think that type of dating can be really hurtful. But to your point about Kaity, I really feel like she's such like that whole date really changed my mind about like who he's interested in. Him being around her was the first time I saw him being a bachelor. The way he was talking to her was super smooth. The way that he was asking her to spend the night, like it was very cute. They actually have some chemistry, which I didn't see in a lot of his interactions yet. So I'm looking out for Kaity.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of had she just wasn't really on my radar. And I was even a little surprised that he picked her for this like really amazing overnight one-on-one date. I just thought that he would pick someone that he already had a strong connection with, like Greer, or in my head, Bailey. LOL, we'll get to that. But, you know, I thought he would pick someone that he clearly already liked a lot to have such a great date. But maybe he really liked Kaity all this time and we just didn't really catch it, or we weren't shown scenes of them interacting to know that this was going on. But, I mean, good for her. I was happy to see them have such a good, and she seems sweet. She seems soft and nice. Even I can't remember who said this back at the house, like one of the girls was like, the thing that like really makes all this like worse, like not only is she getting this awesome overnight date, but she's like such a good person, and like that like makes it feel worse because I know that they could really connect. I was like, that's such a cute thing to say. I think maybe it was Gabby who said it. I was like, it's such a cute thing to say, but clearly the girls in the house like think highly of Kaity too, so you know that also speaks well of her. But the one thing that I hated about the way people were reacting to Katie's date was like all of the language around like, oh, she's like having this walk of shame coming in the door like in her jammies. I was like, oh my God, can we please leave that phrase like in the 70s where it originated? I was just like, oh my God, come on guys, like let's be mature here. I know that it is definitely sucks. It's painful to see someone else like get an overnight date with a guy that you're interested in, and like the idea of like, oh my God, maybe they had sex or they had like a, you know, physical intimacy overnight, and I'm like trying to date this guy. I get it, that is painful, but like don't take it out on Kaity and make it seem like she's like, you know, in some way, I don't know, like unethical or like less, I don't know, something she should be ashamed of. Like, anyways, I could get into it, but I won't.
I know. In every Bachelor episode, I feel like there's always a whiff of misogyny. We just look deep enough. Or not even deep enough. It's just always so there. I was disappointed in them saying that. I get that they were jealous, but you don't have to make someone feel bad about like increasing intimacy of someone that you like. It's totally cool. Let's be sex positive. Let's be nice and friendly about it.
So let us know what you all thought about Katie's one-on-one date. What did you think about her and Zach's conversation about, you know, just looking for the basics from a partner, and this idea of emotional safety becoming a very prime thing that people are looking for in their relationships, and just what it says about modern dating culture? Let us know down below. Let's keep this conversation going. So moving on, next we have our group date. It was pretty straightforward. There was like a football date. It was entertaining to watch, but nothing really dramatic happened there. Bailey did get sent home, which we'll talk about toward the end of this episode, because it's part of my confusion about Zach and how I feel a little bit like I don't know what's going on with him. That was very shocking to me to see Bailey go home, but we'll get into that later. The other thing that was going on in this group date was Charity got the group date rose, and Christina had some choice words about it. She was like, I'm just confused. I thought I should get the rose. So she like reacted in this really just like childish way to Charity getting the rose, and Charity just like starts crying, and all the girls kind of like rallied around her.
I'm confused.
Did I say something wrong?
You did not, but honestly, I'm mad at it. It wasn't me. Duh. Okay, I'll be on. Listen, I'm gonna shoot you straight yet again. I feel like in a lot of settings so far, you make a lot of things about you.
But, like, I am trying to be 100 and say everything.
Christina, you're not making, like, any sense right now, and you're just upsetting Charity, and
I'm
I think
not
it's
trying to
better.
upset Charity.
I'm not saying you are, but you're really not making lots of sense, so I think everyone just stop
Okay.
talking.
Christina definitely hijacked that moment from Charity.
Would it have been better for me to just, like, not be truthful?
Every situation, you turn it around on you. To be honest, respectfully.
Yeah.
Christina did drop a couple of just strange comments. I didn't find them all to be the worst ever, but that one about Charity was very just childish to me. So it was very strange, but this kind of takes us into our next group date situation. But before we get there, Aly did have a one-on-one date too, and it seemed to go really well. Aly is another person who I didn't really pay a lot of attention to night one, but she was so cute. I really liked her personality. She was just very buoyant and cheerful and down to earth. I really, really liked her personality a lot. She just was so cute. So I'm excited to see more of her. I think that Zach seems to like her personality a lot. I can't quite tell yet if there's a romantic spark. It seems like they seem like two friends hanging out to me in a way versus something romantic or sexual. But let's see, because she seems awesome. She's the kind of girl who I would want to see. I don't know, I want to say Bip, but I kind of actually think she could be an interesting bachelorette just because of her. She has such a effervescent personality. She just seems so easy to get along with, and she's so cute and just easy. And I feel that's a good personality type for the bachelorette. But then again, producers usually like someone with a little bit more drama, and Aly seems a little bit she just seems kind of chill.
She's very even. Yeah. I actually thought Christina was getting bachelorette edit a little bit, because she did get a villain edit this episode, but the way that they set her up, she was just very misunderstood. I still don't really understand the whole situation of Christina. I was kind of for her, but then towards the end I thought, okay, what are you doing? You're kind of self-destructing in front of us in real time.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it then. Let's talk about this whole Christina situation, because that was kind of the big kind of drama of the episode was so Zach decides to have a pool party instead of a cocktail party, and at the pool party it seems to all be going well, but then Brianna has just finally registers that Zach is not interested in her, which we were talking a lot about last week. It just seems like he's just not interested in her at all. He has no interest in giving her any validation. He's just kind of yeah, you're really closed off and it's not pleasant to be around you. That's kind of what he's been saying to her. So she finally is all right, I'm going to just leave now. And before I leave, I'm going to let you know that Christina is the person who's been causing me to feel uncomfortable in the home, and she's made other women uncomfortable too. Brianna pieces out, and then we get into this whole Christina situation. So yeah, Julie, what did you think about what's going on here? It seemed like Christina did explode, self implode or something. What did you think about this?
Let's talk about Brianna first, because I feel
okay.
that leads into the whole Christina situation. But with Brianna, I am still torn with her, and I think a lot of people that have been watching her show have been saying the same things. They just don't really like her. They think that she is being manipulative, or that her insecurities are really taking over the show. I felt in that moment, that conversation that she had with Zach, she was basically you didn't listen to me, you didn't take my feelings in stride, and guess what? That one person that I tried to warn you about is now hurting everyone else. I don't feel safe, and I am now going to leave the show. And during that conversation, to me, it felt like she was looking for some kind of validation with Zach's interest, or Zach being oh my God, now I see why I haven't been able to open up to you because of Christina. Oh my gosh, how can I mediate that and still see if there's any kind of connection with you now that this person's getting blocked out of our way? Zach didn't really do that, and that kind of goes back to what I said at the beginning, that this season, he's being touted as this no drama bachelor. Like, he's just in the season for himself. He's doing what he needs for his partner. He's kissing who he wants. He's doing what he wants. And that's great, but not at the cost of making women feel unsafe, because he's prioritizing like his own felt experience and what he's really looking for and how straightforward he's being about it. So I felt like in that moment, I really hated how he didn't apologize to Brianna. He wasn't like, wow, I really wish I had that conversation with you, and I'm really sorry that you feel like you have to go home because of that person that you didn't tell me about, right? He didn't say that.
Because I told you not to tell me about him.
Exactly. I said, I don't like drama. Oh, but now it's affecting all of the girls, not just you. Oh, okay, now I really have to like talk to everyone in the house and make sure that everyone feels safe, right? So like, to me, I was just thinking, wait, like, I don't get why people keep saying Zach is such a great no-drama bachelor. I think that he's being a little bit selfish this season. I think him leaning into the branding of I'm not going to lead people on is now I'm not going to take care of people's feelings. I'm not going to, like, pretend I have something when I don't have anything, which is why, like, these girls that keep coming up to him that are like, I feel a little bit insecure. We haven't really spoken yet. I really want to see if there's anything between us. He just like, okay, actually there isn't anything. I have the connections I want. I know what I'm looking for. If you want to go home, then by like all means go home. Take care of yourself, because I'm not going to take care of you in this experience in this season. I hated how he said goodbye to Brianna the way he did. It was very much like your uncle dropping you off at the airport, like, thank you for coming, I'll see you later, goodbye. And then he went back into the house and he was like, I gotta find out who's causing drama. I need to talk to all of the girls now. I need to see their feelings. So what do you think about it, Kelly?
I mean, I think I'm with you here. I wasn't sure how I felt about it. I was like very confused by the whole situation. Like, personally, I'm
still confused.
With Brianna bringing up Christina at the very end, like, as she was leaving, like, I was trying to decide if I thought that this was, like, shady of her to just, like, throw Christina under the bus right as she's leaving. But to be honest, she's not the only one who has done this on this show. Like, in past seasons, people have left the show in exactly this way. They've just kind of been pushed to the edge by, like, other girls in the house who are just, like, you know, making them just, like, doing too much, you know, causing drama, as they say. And just finally, and also not feeling any kind of actual connection with the lead, so they'll just leave and just be like, hey, I'm going because I don't think there's actually anything here. By the way, this is the bitch who's like causing problems. Like,
yes,
other people have done this on this series, on this franchise, so I don't think Brianna is alone in having done that. I also wouldn't be surprised if the producers were like, hey, Brianna, when you say goodbye to Zach, also mention Christina. Like, just throw it in there on your way out. I wouldn't be surprised if producers told her to do it. But granted, also, I wouldn't be surprised if she just decided to do it herself, just because at that point, it's like she has nothing to lose. It's like she's leaving anyway. So it's like, all right, I know the person here who's causing problems for, like, my girl Charity and, like, my other friends in the house. So I'm just going to say it, because it's not like I can get in trouble for this anymore. It's like, I'm just going to say it because I'm leaving. So I don't know. I wasn't, like, upset at Brianna. I was just kind of like, I don't know. And I don't feel like... I'm like confused. I was trying to think about how I would react in that situation of, like, I just had been on this show and I realized that the guy I'm dating just isn't interested in me, and then also in the house, like, this girl has been, like, you know, making me and other people uncomfortable, and, like, I'm about to leave. Like, would I say something? I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on, like, the severity of, like, what the girl is doing in the house. And so to your point, Julie, like, this takes us to, like, the Christina conversation. I'm not sure about the severity of Christina's, like, villainhood. I'm not... I do think she made some comments that were just rude, like, especially on that group date, like, on the football date. It just felt like she was being really rude to everyone. It seems like she's a little bit, how do you say, like, careless? Like she's a little bit, like, she doesn't think about what she says is going to impact the people around her. So, like, people were talking about how she keeps bragging about her one-on-one date and how well it went and meeting Zach's family, and it's like, she's allowed to talk about that, but also, like, read the room. If clearly you talking about this is upsetting other people, you don't have to keep talking about it. You can just keep some of that to yourself. Maybe, like, if you have one girl who's your friend who you can, like, talk to about this stuff, great, but, like, if it's making everyone upset, why are you continuing to do it? So I did feel like she was being, I don't know if she was being like willfully, like, I'm gonna keep saying this to kind of brag, or if she was just like didn't realize that it was upsetting people. But as soon as people started saying to her like, hey, when you talk about this, it makes the rest of us just feel bad, so can you like talk about your one-on-one date less? Granted, Brooklyn was the one who brought it up, and Brooklyn brought it up in like such a aggressive way, so it was like kind of like, I don't fault Christina for kind of having like a I'm gonna go to bat with you reaction, because Brooklyn brought it up in just such a like, we're fighting now, like, could you please just shut the fuck up? Like, it was just so aggressive. So I don't exactly fault Christina for that, but granted, it's like at that point when you realize you're upsetting people, it's like, just stop. It's not going to hurt you to stop talking about this. So the fact that she was like, well, I don't care, like, you know, I'm not here to make friends, da-da-da, like, that's like such a catchphrase on all of these reality TV shows, and it's like every time a girl says that, I'm like, lady, yes, you're not here to make friends, but on any show of any season of reality television, any bitch who says this, you know she gonna go home because the other girls are gonna say something about her. It's like, you always benefit from other people thinking highly of you. It's like Kaity. It's like exactly what we were saying. It's like Kaity went on this overnight date. Everyone was jealous, but then also people were like, but she's so nice. And like, that's what makes it worse. I think she's a good match for Zach. Like, that's how you want people to talk about you. You want people to have your back because, one, it's just nice to be nice, and two, because it literally will benefit you later down the line. You see how it all just blows up in Christina's face. I'm not here to make friends. And it's like, all right, well, don't be surprised when your bullshit eventually gets back to Zach. Like, so it's like, I don't think that she is like the worst person ever and she's like ultra villainous, but it's like she made some really poor choices. And to me, I'm not surprised that it ended the way it did, because, you know, if you're not willing to adjust your behavior when people tell you that you're upsetting them, it's like, what do you expect? Then people will not want to be around you. It's like, adjust your behavior or people will stop wanting to be around you. In this case, that means ejecting you from the house.
So Christina just feels like what she's victim of is being a main character and not being super aware of how much she's centering herself as a protagonist. Because like that first one-on-one date, it is like, it kind of would mess with your head. You know, she's a single mom. She has a little girl. She meets Zach's family. She goes to his childhood house. She meets his dogs. I think in her mind, she believes, okay, I am a step above these other girls. I can see the story playing out in my head. I really, really like him. And to me, at the beginning when I was watching the episode, Christina just represented that inevitable point of the season when it just starts to transition from we're a bunch of girls that are just seeing if we like Zach to we like Zach, we want to get this guy's attention, and we want to get it at all costs. What she said about how does that group rose work? I've never been on a group date. I've only been on one-on-one dates. I was like, Christina, shut up. Like, you
like,
are...
why are you even saying that, girl?
Yes.
Like,
she definitely knew what she was doing. I don't think that what you were saying, Kelly, you're right. She wasn't being super villainous, but she was definitely trying to make the other girls feel insecure. Christina just kind of reminds me of like a catty high school girl almost. Like, she's so well-intentioned. She's trying to be nice, but she's also super insecure, and she just takes it out on people. And she kind of is really aware of other people and how their connection to Zach is going, and to her, it's a little bit competitive. I don't think she's trying to, I don't think it's intentional, but she's just jealous. Like with the comment about Brianna being like, oh my God, I hate you in that dress. The comment about the other person getting the role, she's like, I feel really emotional about it. I'm just going to tell everybody about it. And it's like, Christina, this is not your moment. This is like a season for everybody. She doesn't really have that penetrated in her head. Yeah, so even when I saw her talking to Zach, I was like, okay, time for a logical, rational conversation to get you to stay on the show. And then she's just like, you're right, she just imploded. She just started crying, help me, which freaked out Zach, because Zach might really, really like her, but she already, like, I believe he didn't want to be a stepdad, so already that was like one mark off of her. So like now this, like her being chaotic, her potentially making other women in the house feel unsafe, Zach was like, all right, 3 strikes, you're out. I don't like you enough.
Yeah.
And Christina thought Zach really, really liked her enough to justify all of that behavior because she met his parents. But it's like, that was production. That wasn't you. He didn't invite you to meet his family. He just invited a girl to go on a date, and then you happen to be that girl, and you made it mean so much more.
You are so right. I really like that your point about Christina. She probably was starting to feel insecure by the time of the group date when she started to realize, oh, I'm not the only one who has a connection with Zach. Like, on the group date, that's when you really start to see other girls and the way Zach interacts with other women. And you're right. I bet it was like, and that's exactly what happened with Brianna in that original comment, right? The original comment, it was like, you're so beautiful, I hate you. It was just kind of like her insecurities, like, it comes out in this passive-aggressive way, or in this,
we're seeing a pattern. We're clocking Christina.
Right. Yeah. You're right. I think that she is actually generally well-intentioned, and it's like she's not thinking enough. She's just not thinking enough about how her behavior impacts other people. She's just kind of in her own world, to your point. And I think that you're right. It was 3 strikes. I think in some ways I was like surprised to see Christina go home, but actually in Zach's head there was 3 different things: the having to be a stepdad if he gets with her, the like her like sobbing on the ground, that was like her reaction to the conflict, and 3, like also all these girls have beef with her. It's like, all right, yeah, that's enough. Like, I can't like give so many chances, right? And so people are saying like, oh wow, he cut her just like that, but actually it wasn't just like that. He already did kind of let Christina slide in a couple of different ways, but then it was like at this point, and I really think the turning point was when they sat down in that conversation and she just starts bawling. I think that was probably his turning point, because you know, he keeps saying he doesn't like drama. And honestly, this scene reminded me of, remember last season on Bachelor in Paradise when NC was like begging Andrew not to leave? And she was like, please, Andrew, just stay. Like, it was so dramatic. And it was like, oh my gosh, if it gets to that point, you know you're in a bad place. Like, this is, like, it just should never get to that. She wouldn't let him leave.
She was holding on to his hands. Yeah, I hated that.
Ugh,
I
so
know.
Rude.
It's
creepy.
It's just like Christina in that moment, she would have really benefited from just being like, wow, this is what really happened. This is me being super logical about it. Let me help you understand it. Let me talk to the girls and let me apologize to them. This is a pretty minor conflict that could have been overcome with some understanding. She's emotional. She is kind of asking Zach to like really see her and her emotions, but he doesn't know enough about Christina yet to understand who she is and how she's reacting. Zach to me is a very simple, basic bachelor. He's kind of like Clayton 2.0, but like maybe like a more cuspy Gen Z kind of bachelor, I think. Like, he knows how to play into the producer's hands, but he's also really into his own season. So because of that, he really wants someone that kind of like checks the boxes consistently and thoroughly. Like, towards the end, ask for validation if you need it. I don't see Zach being the person that would give it to you before he even knows if he likes you or not. So yeah, I just think that with the whole Christina situation, she kind of showed like, okay, I get really emotional in these moments, and he was like, I don't really vibe off of that. I really want someone that's going to be able to be a Kaity. Like, I think the way Kaity handled her whole overnight date, not gossiping about it, not rubbing it in people's faces, not really bringing it up again, he wants someone that kind of goes below the radar. Christina is like way too seen by everybody, and it's not nice.
Yeah, you're right. I think that reaction of Christina was kind of like the nail in the coffin. I think that if she had reacted to your point in a more level-headed way, he may have felt differently and he may have kept her around. But because she reacted in such a emotionally intense, like emotionally roller coastery type of way, it's like she might say that she was drunk in that moment, but it's like, I mean, you might be drunk in other conflicts and react in that way as well. And so it's like, you want to, I mean, Zach is young, so I was kind of actually thinking that maybe he would play into all of this, but certainly when you're like in your 30s, it's like, you just don't got time for that kind of people who are gonna like just cry and just have this like intense emotional reaction that's like just like so hard to figure out
tiny,
and hard to
minor
like
things. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that's something that we all go through that phase. So no shade on Christina. Like, I get it. We all go through that phase where it's like we kind of can't keep a lid on, or we can't manage our emotions in a way or communicate our emotions in a way that is productive, and we like kind of recess into like childlike behavior, which is exactly what Christina did. She kind of recessed into, or regressed maybe is the word I'm trying to find here, but she kind of like regressed into a more like childlike reaction of like how a child would be like, you know, sobbing to a parent, right? And so I feel like that type of reaction, it does indicate a level of emotional maturity, which again doesn't make Christina a bad person, but it may just not be, like, I know I would not want to date someone like that at my current age. When I was 22, totally. I mean, that was me when I was 22, so, you know, totally date someone who has like, it's fine, whatever, like, you know, but like, I do think that this is actually a compliment to Zach. Like, kudos on him for like, it's just kind of like as soon as you see them. This is how Andrew reacted to NC as well. It was like not the content of what NC was saying. It wasn't the fact that she was jealous about Jasenia. It was the way she handled that conflict. Just that that heightened emotional kind of reaction that Andrew was like, done, can't handle this, I'm out. And I think that that's kind of similar to what happened with Zach. It was just like, this is not the way that I want conflicts to happen in my relationship and in my life. And so I'm done. I can't handle it. And so, yeah, sorry, Christina. I kind of was rooting for you last week. And then this week I was just kind of like, you maybe have a little bit of inner work to do before you're ready to be in a mature relationship. Not that she's not deserving of love, and I'm sure she will find great love maybe sooner rather than later, hopefully. But
I have my opinion about, I think she's going to get a redemption arc on Bib. She's going to be the Bachelorette. I can totally see Christina getting it, because the villain edit wasn't a total villain edit. It was like she seemed so misunderstood. She seemed so emotional in a way that I think the producers would really like, because it's like, wow, look at this single mom looking for love that's just trying so hard to like have someone be in her daughter's life. I can totally see her more than any of the other contestants so far going the distance.
Okay,
we'll see.
Interesting prediction. Okay, I'm really curious. All right, y'all, let us know down below what you thought about Brianna's handling of the situation and about Christina's handling of the situation. Did you think either of them were in the wrong here? Do you think that either of them could have done things differently? Let's continue the conversation below. But this now takes us to, I guess, like, we've been teasing at this idea, but what we think about Zach, how Zach handled this whole situation, and what we think about how he's playing this whole season in general. Now that we're in episode 3, so we're still early on, but we have enough data now that we can kind of start to analyze what's happening here. Julie, I know you have a lot of thoughts about this, so I'll toss it to you to get us started.
The whole Brianna conversation to me was kind of what I had theorized about Zach. He isn't no drama. I just think that he is someone that he's like a more straightforward dater. I don't think he's a kinder dater. I don't think he's a better dater. I think that he's just someone that's really looking out for himself this season, which is probably why I can see him actually getting engaged at the end of it, because he's so laser focused in what he wants in his own experience, which is a little bit more interesting to watch, because he's not the Bachelor that is going to be confusing about the woman that he's interested in. I think he'll be extremely honest and straightforward about it. I really believe this is going to be an ongoing theme over the next few episodes as girls come up to him for validation. If he's not into them, he will just like simply let them leave. He's not going to do anything that takes him away from the story that he really wants to have. He's maybe one of the first bachelors we've had in a long time that knows what he wants. I think he's going about it not in the best way. I don't think he's super sensitive. I don't think he's very emotionally aware, but he's very tapped into his body. He really knows what he wants, and he's really letting that be like his North Star and guiding him in all of these interactions. If he's not into it in the moment, he's just not into it, and he's more than willing to drop it. He's not someone that like I think will excavate and explore connections. He's like really super laser focused on what he wants, the girls he thinks could be a really good match from at the end, and he's not going to steer from that. So that's kind of how I'm feeling about Zach so far. I don't really know if I like him yet. I don't really know how I feel about the way that he's approaching his season either.
I think that he is... I can't tell if he's self-aware or not.
I can't tell.
I can't...
Beats me.
I'm kind of confused. And maybe part of the problem is also we're not getting a lot of Zach's talking heads. Like, we're not getting that many of them, I feel like, of him, like, really describing his decision-making and his emotions. And maybe that's because he's not talking about them in his talking heads, and that's why we're not getting any of it. Or maybe it's just not being included. So I still find myself being a little bit befuddled by him, and there were many moments this episode where I was confused by his decision making. Like, so Bailey was the big one. So he sent Bailey home during the group date. Bailey came up to him, to your point, she was like, give me validation, like, I feel like we haven't connected. And he was like, actually, I totally forgot you were here, bye. Like, and that was basically the nature. He just sent her home just like that. He just said that he felt like their relationship had regressed. And I was surprised by that because, you know, it had only been, this is week 3, so it had only been 2 weeks. Week 1, they had such a great connection.
Exactly.
It seemed like she came out of limo, he kissed her. It seemed like he had been thinking about her prior to all of this, like, because he had met her after the final rose at the end of Gabby and Rachel's season. So it felt like he had been, because he kissed her and he was like, I remember your name, I'm sorry I forgot. And, like, it just seemed like, you know, there was something there, which it seems like even Bailey felt that as well. And I even was like, maybe she'll get the first impression rose. But then, you know, they didn't actually really talk that much on the first night after that limo entrance. But overall, I just really felt like there was a connection there. Week 2, she disappeared off the map. We even commented about this last week. We were like, where did she go? It was like she didn't have any interactions with him. And then in week 3, finally on the group date, she was like, okay, let's talk, because we didn't even interact last week. And I was surprised that he was just like, well, this has regressed, so you should just go. It felt, it was like too sudden almost. It was like you had 1 week where you didn't have time to talk to her. And of course, I mean, there's so much going on. There's so many girls that you're trying to talk to and form connections with. It's like if 1 week goes by where there's a girl that you didn't talk enough to that week, it's like to assume that means there's no connection whatsoever, I think was just a little premature almost. Like, it almost felt like in that moment there were other women he was more interested in, and so he was like, all right, that must mean I can just send you home. Like, it felt, I even had this feeling of like, I wonder if he's just being, it's like he's either like just like going with whims in the moment, like in the moment he like just wasn't that interested in her, and so he just sent her home. Or maybe it was like there was a whim that night to kiss Bailey, and then, but it wasn't substantiated by actual feelings and connections. So maybe it was just like that was the whim. But it just made me feel like I don't know if his actions translate very clearly to his feelings. And I don't really know if, I don't know. I just felt myself feeling confused. Him sending Bailey home, like, really kind of, to me, turns Zach into a big question mark, because I really thought that Bailey was, and she's hot, she seems really cool and down to earth. To me, she gives like Kaylin, she gives Kelly from Peter's season, she gives, like, she's like just the kind of girl I just kind of thought he would really vibe with. And so I was just really surprised that he wouldn't even want to keep her around another week to kind of see if anything's there. He just sent her home just because 1 week they didn't get a chance to really talk. Unless he, like, something happened that we didn't see where, like, you know, he got the ick or something. They were talking about the ick factor at the end of this episode, but did you see this in the blooper? I know you always,
I
like,
never
skip
watched
the bloopers.
As soon as, like, the show was over, I'm like, okay, I'm done, and I turn off.
There was a blooper where they talked about ick factor. So I was wondering, I was like, maybe Zach got the ick for Bailey at some point. But yeah, I just felt confused. Anyways, yeah, I just felt like, what are you doing, Zach? Like, how are you making your decisions? Like, how much are you consulting yourself before you decide to do something? You know, like, how much are you, like, to your point, you were like, you said that, like, you don't feel like he's self-aware, but he's in tune with his body. I'm a little bit like, I don't know if he's either of those things, because I'm like, why do you do things that don't actually align with what you want? Or I don't know. I don't really know exactly how I feel. I just feel confused, maybe, is my main point here.
I started to also think about it because when I was watching the episode last night, I was like, what is Zach doing? Is he no drama? Is he no bullshit? Is he not self-aware? What I meant about him having this, like, intelligence for his body is more so him prioritizing that versus maybe his heart or his mind. Like, for him to kiss Bailey, it's like, this feels good in the moment. I want to kiss Bailey. For him to be in the conversation of Bailey, and then for her to say, look, I want validation. We haven't talked in a bit. I just want to make sure that we're still feeling some connection. He wasn't thinking in his heart, wow, how do I feel about Bailey? To me, it just felt like, this conversation doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel good to talk to Bailey right now. Like,
and
if she wants to...
Goodbye.
So goodbye. Like, it's kind of like, he tried to make it seem like it was empowering. I want to respect you. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. What is the best way that we could both get something out of this? But to me, it just felt like that was a moment of care. That was a moment of deepening. And Zach is kind of just, like, skipping right over that and just being like, well, you just don't feel good in this conversation. I don't feel great either. So you're right. You should go home. That's what you want. And I really respect you in that. I'm not going to think too much about it because I have all of these other girls that need my time and attention. So goodbye. Yeah. It just felt very simple, super straightforward. Kind of like, I don't know if he's compartmentalizing or what it is, because it's so bizarre how he is divorcing. Like, I really don't think he's consulting his heart or, like, his emotions. I think he's like, does it feel good in the moment? If it doesn't feel good, I'm just going to let it go.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Like,
but it's I can't tell.
I can't tell, exactly. Like, that's
tell.
Just, like, a current working theory that I think is really valid. It's just a little bit like, whatever he feels in the moment, that's what he goes with. So that conversation with Bailey, oh, God, it's so heavy. Just go home. Instead of, like, I know I really was interested in you the last, like, 2 weeks, so maybe let's kind of see where this goes. Exactly. It's kind of like again, like, this goes back to what we were talking about last week. It's like, I don't know if this is no drama as much as this is running away from anything difficult. You know, like, a little bit.
Okay,
right?
You just, like, captured it. That's Zach's whole dating issue, Kelly. You just hit the nail on the coffin, because I agree. It's like, you're not being empowering, Zach. You're just kind of being the person that's like, I'm not afraid to tell you the truth, and he's, like, a little bit mean about it. Do you know what I mean? It's like this, I don't really know how to explain it. It's like he kind of lacks elegance in the way that he's dealing with things, but it's super straightforward, and I appreciate him for that.
Yeah, it is like, he's straightforward, he's a little bit in the moment, and he doesn't
very
have
action-oriented. Like, he just takes decisions right away.
Yeah, and he just doesn't have any tolerance for anything that feels bad. Like, it seems like a sin. Oh, wait! Sorry, it's get really dramatic, but isn't this exactly what happened with Rachel on the fantasy suite? It was like, got to the fantasy suite, they were having hard conversations, and he gets out and he's like, she wasn't all over me, she wasn't in love with me like she's been the last couple of weeks. Why was she suddenly, like, distant from me? God, that two-faced bitch. Like, that was what he was like after Rachel's date. I think he has a very low tolerance for negative emotions. It's like, as soon as he feels any, like, if the conversation is even a little bit difficult, he's like, what is wrong with her? Like, that's how we felt about Brianna. That's how we felt about Bailey.
Kelly,
that's how we felt about Rachel. Did we solve it? Did we solve it?
Code. We cracked the code of the season, because you're so right. He has such a low tolerance for negative emotions, and it's very bizarre how he makes decisions. Like, I really don't... Okay, another thing that really bothered me about Bailey was, in the conversation, someone tried to steal him, and he let them.
Sorry, he was like, it was so weird.
He was like, goodbye. I've studied this conversation that is causing me discomfort. Here is another beautiful girl that will take my mind off of it. So it just felt a little bit like, are you in the moment? Are you feeling... He'd never indicated, I feel bad about sending Bailey, Brianna, Christina home. He was like, it's not working out. I don't feel great around them. I should feel good around them at this point. I have all of these other girls to focus on. Like, to me, Zach feels like a very experience-oriented person. Like, right. What did you come to? Tell
You're
me.
Absolutely right. The thing that I just thought about, too, was that, he's like, he's so focused on like, do I feel good around them? It's like the physical
Am I having
experience
fun
in the
with
moment.
them?
And remember how he keeps talking about how like, oh, my parents never fight? Maybe he literally doesn't know how to sit in conflict. Maybe he literally doesn't know like how to handle people's negative emotions, which will always inevitably come up in every relationship, including the most healthy of all time. I always like, every time he brings that up, like, my parents don't fight and they've been married for 30 years. I'm like, it isn't that they don't fight. They probably just don't tell each other how they're feeling. And it's probably a very sorry to Zach's parents, but like, or they fight and don't show Zach, right? But it's like, no one doesn't have conflict, right? You put any two people together and make them share life for, a certain amount of time, and disagreements will come up. Tension, just like different ways of doing things, it's gonna come up, like inevitable. And so him saying they don't fight in 30 years, I'm like, ooh, there's something weird happening there. There's something strange happening. And so
I agree.
Maybe that background of like never being exposed to conflict, never seeing people move through a disagreement and a difficult conversation in a healthy way is now like playing out in how he moves through relationships. As soon as there's something difficult going on with Rachel, with Brianna, with Bailey, Christina, he's like, ooh, this feels bad. Bye. Like very, very conflict avoidant. It's conflict avoidance. It's a complete lack of tolerance for any kind of difficult thing in a relationship, which, sorry, that means you're not going to be able to be in a relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or you can be in a relationship with someone that's equally interested in not really being their true self and not really vocalizing their needs and just kind of focused on having fun, because that is the kind of relationship a lot of people can get into. They will just focus on what are we compatible with, and all of the other things we're just not going to talk about it because it's going to bring fights, it's going to bring disagreements, and they're not comfortable with conflict. So let's focus on the good. You can make a relationship in that, but you can't make a life with that. You can't find true happiness and a lot of depth in that, right? And I'm not speaking about Zach specifically. It's just that what he's modeling out is just this clear discomfort of maybe being open to relationships that are a little bit harder. Relationships that aren't just like super easy and just exactly what he wants and just super fun and breezy and light, and the girls are secure. He doesn't have to cater to them. It speaks to some type of autonomy. It speaks to some type of like interdependence, which could be really healthy, which is why Zach is so confusing, because it's like, okay, he kind of seems like he's representing like a healthier dating paradigm, but the way that he's moving is not really, it's like it doesn't really indicate that. He just seems like he's being very empowered, but I don't think he's being empowered. He's just like, I want to do what I like, and I'm not even going to think about these other girls as much after I like say goodbye to them. I'm not going to be so hung up on it or like get really sad that they didn't feel like loved in my season, or they didn't feel like they were heard in my season,
Yeah, exactly. It's a very fend for yourself, right? It was exactly what we said last week. It's like a very fend for yourself. Like, you take care of yourself. Like, it's not my job to take care of you and make you okay. And until you're happy all the time, I do not want to be around you. Like, that's kind of his attitude. Like, happy positivity all the time. And unless you're that, you gotta go figure out your own shit. And when you're ready to be just like a happy smiley girl around me, then we can date. That was his thing with Rachel too. That was his thing with Brianna. That was his thing with Christina. And maybe Bailey, at least the theory. So wow, I really think we maybe have cracked the code on Zach. I didn't really know exactly how I felt about him, but this conversation has given me a lot more to think about. I'm going to be curious to see if this theory pans out as we keep watching this season, because it feels like we got a trend here. We have a couple of data points now, so it feels like we have a trend.
You're right. And it's something for us to look out to, because Zach could totally surprise us. The way that he keeps talking about a season is like, this is the most romantic love story we've ever had on the franchise, which is them being dramatic. But it could also be really speaking to how Zach is just really being very straightforward and predictable with the way that he's making decisions. It's just, what is he basing those decisions on? And I'm assuming it's ease. assuming it's like ease, it's some type of like compatibility with fun, versatility, and adventure and family. And if those things are met, then like Zach is probably gonna propose to you. And if you can get through the rest of the season of no drama or like not really meeting him a lot, I think that he would really like that. But let's see.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, how interesting. I'm so fascinated. Let us know down below what you all think about Zach. What do you think about this theory? Which, by the way, me and Julie didn't plan out this conversation.
No.
We didn't know we were going to go here. So this was very, very, very interesting to us. So let us know down below what you think about this theory about, like, is Zach this, like, overly kind of self-centered and a little bit in the moment and a little bit kind of I don't know, conflict avoidant and uncomfortable with difficult things. Like, is that the Zach thing? Did we hit the nail on the head? Like, let us know down below. I really am curious what people think about this theory. Okay, maybe let's wrap this up with talking about the new girls who are standing out. Because, by the way, if we were in a fantasy league, if we had actually like created a bracket, man, I would be so fucked. Like,
I'd be bad. Yeah.
This was bad. The 4 girls that I had listed out were Bailey, Christina, Jessica, who's still there, and I forgot who was the other one. Who was the other girl I was thinking about? Greer. Yeah, okay. Greer and Jessica are still there, but 2 out of 4 are gone. Christina and Bailey. So I'm a little bit embarrassed. I feel like my predictions this season have not been great. So there's a lot of front runners, like, in my opinion, getting sent home pretty early on. So are there new girls who are sticking out to you, Julie, now that a lot of these other girls have left?
I would say Kaity. Kaity wants me to scrap. I want to scrap my other picks because of Kaity. I felt like the way that she handled the date, this was the first time that I saw Zach actually light up around someone, and he just felt so confident, so suave, so energetic. He seemed himself, and they were just like running around the museum and having a lot of fun. I also thought her personality is maybe the personality that he would really, really like. Just that sweetness of Kaity, a little bit about how she's reserved because she didn't go back in the house, and she spoke about it, but she didn't make the moment about herself. She didn't make it a big deal. That's the way that Zach played his season. He was very much like, I'm having fun, I'm doing these experiences, I'm really connecting to a person. It really makes sense that the person he would want to have be his final rose would be really similar to that. I kind of see Kaity like flying under the radar, and then her being like a bigger thing towards the end of the season. I see her being like top 4 minimum. So I really like them together. And then the other girls, I don't really know. Greer as being a top person, maybe Gabby, Charity, Brooklyn maybe, but Brooklyn was kind of being a little bit weird about that walk of shame, so I wasn't as into her.
Well, Brooklyn has gotten a lot of screen time.
Exactly.
Both this week, last week, I can't remember first night, but she's gotten a lot of screen time, which makes me wonder if she'll become a more prominent character later down the line. But we also haven't seen we also haven't seen Brooklyn and Zach interacting much at all. Like, they haven't really shown us many scenes with the 2 of them. So we just see her there kind of as like a figure of drama, like in other people's conflicts. Like, she just represents, she's like she's the one who like gives the sound bites to like explain the tension in the house. So I don't know if she and Zach have a strong connection. She seems like Zach's type, so I would think there would be something there, but we just haven't seen so much of it. So she's another one to kind of keep an eye on, I guess.
What are your girls that you're thinking of?
Well, for me, I think the girl that stood out this episode that I hadn't been thinking about at all was Ariel. She was someone who, I always thought that she was very attractive and kind of like mysterious in some way. Like, she has like a very mysterious energy, but I don't know. I hadn't really seen a lot of her, but last week on the group date, they had like a pretty good conversation that had surprised me. She was like Gabby. She was the one who was like, oh, I haven't really talked to him since the limo entrance, so I really want to get some good time with him on this group date. And Gabby kind of had like the worst one-on-one time with him on the group date. And Ariel like had a really good conversation with him. It was kind of like their first conversation, honestly, since the limo exit. and it went really well. They kissed, and then she left, and she was like, oh, I feel so much better. And I agreed. I was like, wow, I was surprised with how well that went. I kind of didn't think it was going to go that well, but it really did. And then on last night's episode, they seemed to have so much chemistry at the pool party. Like, she was like with him in the hot tub, and he was just like really like touching her and vibing with her. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, we haven't, like, I didn't know that this was all simmering in the background. There was just so much, I don't know, like a little electricity between them. And I even felt it when he gave her the rose, like at the rose ceremony. She like made like a little joke, and he like laughed and like leaned into her in a way that I was like, ooh, I like just felt a little bit of a magnetic connection between them. But I don't know, I would love to see her get some more maybe like some one-on-one time, so we could really assess if they're like compatible. But I think she's like a very interesting one. I wouldn't have guessed her from night one at all, but I feel like I would move her higher up now in my rankings. Maybe not top 4. I mean, maybe definitely top 6, but maybe top 4. I do feel like that connection to me was the one that like jumped off the page in this episode. I was very surprised to see how much they were vibing. Other than her, I think now I'm kind of lost on who his front runners are. I mean, still Greer, still Jessica, and then yeah, I think Kaity is another one that definitely seems like it's like, I just think that having that overnight one-on-one date is just such a like
it's so
advantage.
obvious.
Like,
it's a slam dunk, I think.
I mean, it just means that they got so much time together. So I just feel like he's going to feel so much more connected to her. And I feel like he really liked how she was not asking him for anything. So, you know, it wasn't like she was like bringing in conflict, which is the thing that apparently he doesn't like. But she did say, like, I've had bad relationships in the past, and I just want a good relationship with a good guy now, like a good man. And I think he was like, had like a little bit of like a shining armor, like kind of goes up, like, you know.
He's
like
he's put the suit on. He's like, okay,
he was
ready
like,
to save the day.
Yeah, exactly. I think he was really excited.
I can do the bare minimum. I can do it, Kaity.
I kind of feel like he was like, oh, that could be me. I'm a very normal, nice guy. Check, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so I feel like he like kind of liked the idea of being able to kind of like rescue her from her toxic past. So I kind of think that he was into that. Even with who was it? Aly, who was bringing up the thing about like control, like she can be controlling in relationships. She's had like toxic relationships in the past. He had the same kind of reaction to her. He was like, oh, well, you know, like, I want you to feel like you don't have to put other people first. Like, I think he likes kind of a little bit like rescuing. He has a little bit of like I like to rescue the girl I'm dating kind of thing. So, but not actually deal with her emotions in the present. It's more like, you had a bad past, and I'm going to show you a good time now. Like, that's kind of his vibe. So I think that...
Okay. But another way to look at it, Kelly, is what we were saying before. Is it just Zach being excited to just do the bare minimum and being celebrated for it?
I know.
Right?
I know.
Because now that Kaity, like what you just said about Kaity, you know, wanting to feel safe in a relationship, it should be expected. It's the lowest, the most basic thing that anyone can really give you, but she hasn't had that. So anything Zach gives her is going to be amazing, and she's not going to ask for a lot. So then... I don't know. I can now that we've said this, I can actually see her going further.
I know. Yeah, I agree. So I kind of feel like, exactly. I kind of think that she could really make her way up the rankings. So I would say sad. Those are the two. I know. So I would say those are the two that were new standouts to me, Kaity and Ariel. So let us know down below if there's anyone else Let us know down below if there was anyone else who was standing out to you all. I'm curious who everyone else is paying attention to, because I feel like a lot of the people that we were all paying attention to are gone now. Like,
I know. I backed Christina, dude. So it was kind of disappointing to see her go home. I was like, what just happened? I know.
It was very, I was joking with Bert. It was kind of like a red wedding. Oh, I know you don't watch Game of Thrones, but Game of Thrones
But I've heard of the red wedding. Yeah.
It was like a red wedding episode. It was like all the main characters gone. Like, you know, like in the blink of an eye, all the main characters disappeared. So that's what it was, like Zach's Red Wedding. That should be the title of our video. Just kidding. I don't know.
You're right. Wait, that's so funny. I'm like, okay, it's going to be this person. Oh, he's sending Christina home. Oh, he's sending Bailey home.
Yeah.
So the only thing I can really say with certainty is if you're a girl going to Zach this early on asking for validation, you're going to get sent home.
Yeah,
Like,
don't do that. Don't ask that man for anything.
Don't ask that man for anything. Just have a good time.
Laugh.
Yeah.
If you ask for something, he will be very uncomfortable and he will probably send you home.
He will say, like, you can find that at home. I can't give you that. But like but I respect your decision to look for that outside of this relationship. It's so bizarre. I'm so glad we got to talk about it. I feel like I know Zach a little bit better.
I know, I think so too. I feel like this is a very interesting theory. Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyways, should we wrap up?
Let's wrap up.
So if you have watched to this point of this video and you... okay, so if you have watched to this point in this video and you're not subscribed to our channel yet, what are you doing? Hit the subscribe button. We do this every week, and man, you're a trooper for getting all the way to the end of this conversation.
It's a lot.
We do this... It was a lot. We had a lot to say. I think we had to find our point, but we found it. Anyways, we're here doing this every week. We are always analyzing the dating and relationship themes in The Bachelor, and we will have another Bachelor recap for you next week for episode 4. That's all. Bye.
Bye.
Sorry, was that awkward?
No, I loved it. I loved it. It was good.
That's all, folks.
Bye.